So for today's episode of Rare, we welcome Anita Atema. And Anita Atema is an experienced and results-driven general manager with strong personal commitment to patient engagement and access. She has broad experience in various biopharmaceutical companies such as Amgen, Roche, Celgene, and Jazz Pharma in a variety of roles across marketing, sales, medical affairs, market access, corporate affairs, and patient advocacy. So Anita has been responsible for the successful launch of 6 orphan drugs in the Dutch market across more than 10 mostly rare diseases by creating unique patient access solutions. So welcome, Anita. Can you talk us through your journey so far?
Of course, Laura, and yeah, very happy to share my journey with you and also the viewers. I think my journey towards pharma most likely started already when I was a teenager, so back in the 80s, and to be exactly on my father's 56th birthday. And it's a bit of coincidence, that's exactly the age I am currently right now myself. But on that day, when he turned 56, he mentioned to me that he was now older than his own dad ever was. So my grandfather died in the early 60s from cancer, and I'd never known him, only through stories. So the emotional impact this had on my father also had an enormous impact on myself. So I promised my dad on that day that I would help to cure cancer, being a teenager. So oncology has been the red thread throughout since then, my whole career. So a few years later, I started as a medical biology student at the University of Groningen. And I finished my master's doing research at the Dutch Cancer Institute in Amsterdam. And I stayed on there as a scientific researcher for 2 more years. But around that time, it was quite difficult to find a permanent position in research. So I started in the mid-90s as a management trainee at Sandoz, which now is known as Novartis, which was a great period in which I could have a sneak preview in 1 year, allowed to get some experience in sales, in marketing and medical. But unfortunately, the traineeship did not lead into a specific role in oncology, which I had set my mind to. So I joined Amgen, a brand new startup at that time as a product specialist, hematology oncology, in the northeastern part of the Netherlands. And this also allowed me to go back to live in my favorite town, Groningen, to start living the working student life, but with more money, so to say, which was great. So Amgen being a startup, I was employee, I think number 9 or 10, was allowing me to help to build the Dutch organization from scratch. And I was given the task, after 9 months being in the field, to set up the medical information department. And that was a wonderful role. I was right back in reading a lot of clinical research papers, helping physicians and colleagues to get answers they had about our products or diseases. And another nice requirement of the job was that I had to attend many national and international congresses focusing on oncology. And this also brought me to a unique congress in Australia about peripheral stem cells. So that was very interesting. And also it was a great country and wonderful people. And 1 year later, I found myself working for Amgen in Sydney and was traveling the whole country or the whole continent to look for spots for local congresses, because twice a year, Amgen Australia organized congresses for their local customers, pharmacists and physicians. And I was not only responsible to find a suitable location, but also to decide on the agenda topics and approach the local and the international speakers. So a great experience. But after 2 years, I left with pain in my heart, this beautiful country. As my husband and myself, we had the wish to start a family back home in the Netherlands. So this decision brought me back to Amgen in the Netherlands, where I could come back as a product manager. And the wish to start a family did not happen at once, but when it did, I decided I would like to spend some time with my son and asked to work part-time. And the reason I mentioned this in this interview during my journey is that it was a defining moment in my life. It impacted not only my professional career, in the beginning a bit negative, but later mostly positive. At that time, we're talking early 2002, working part-time was even in the Netherlands not common, and it resulted in me being taken out even of a so-called internal high potential path at Amgen. So it felt that being pregnant had maybe in their eyes maybe a little bit less eager to continue to be a high potential, which I disagreed on, but it was a fact in their eyes. So I decided to leave Amgen after 9 years and take a sabbatical with my husband and then a 1.5-year-old son. In the meantime, I was pregnant with my daughter as well. So we traveled around Europe and the Caribbean, which was great. So after 1.5 years of sabbatical, which whenever I had explained to my future employers or colleagues, they all felt a bit jealous, but in a good way that we had done this. But after this period, I started to work for Roche as a marketing manager, again, back in the hematology oncology field. And Roche was a bit more advanced, so to say, and I could work even as a people manager part-time, so 4 days a week. And I'm still very grateful to them that they allowed this and invested in me. So this experience of being able to raise a family and also have a professional career, I used in my time as a manager to advocate to allow employees to work part-time and invest in them so the talent is not leaving just because of the normal need of having a private life as well. So I have to say that this attitude is still not very common practice, I realized, working for foreign managers myself, who still could not believe that even senior manager directors would want to work part-time. And now we're talking 2020 and, still now. So back to my career after my sabbatical. I worked for 6 years at Roche, mainly as a people manager for marketeers, and was in 2008 headhunted to join the management team of, again, a new and small biopharmaceutical company in the Netherlands, Celgene. And at Celgene, everything I've learned in the past actually years came together. Being part of a very driven and passionate team, we built a great organization in just a few years. Launched many orphan drugs, I just mentioned in the intro, in various indications. And after 3 years, I was asked to head up the Dutch organization. Well, that role was a dream come true. It was not only great to work with such a nice team, but also we brought a lot of innovative medicines and also innovative markets and patient access solutions. So then something interesting happened that after 6 years, I was asked by senior management of Celgene to become the patient advocacy lead for our worldwide markets. And this was a very interesting request, as being known within Celgene for my patient focus as a GM. This led by senior management to the idea that a person with my background could maybe be more convincing to other GMs to run the local business even more patient focused. So because I spoke the commercial language, we could also convince them to embed patient engagement goals into their own local goals. So I can only recommend a role as patient advocate to every GM within pharma. What I learned from patients and patient advocates, how we could improve on our research, our market access, our patient centricity, which will be a topic we talk about later on, was so valuable, and also enhanced my skills to become a better pharma professional even further. But then, unfortunately, to the takeover of Celgene by BMS, I had to leave Celgene and enjoyed another sabbatical, but this time with my almost grown-up daughter, traveling again to the Caribbean. So she said I missed out on the first one, so better get on the second one with you. So during that time, I applied for a role as a GM again for Jazz, and they were looking for a GM to build their Benelux organization, which was for me a great opportunity, not to only experience to set up an organization now as a GM, but also to getting the experience in 2 other countries and doing all this during the pandemic. So I like a challenge, and here I had a big one on my hands. And after almost 3 years in this role, I managed to attract a really great multinational team, set up office and launched the portfolio, again in hemato-oncology, but also neuroscience in 3 countries. So I could leave as a proud GM, which was good. And now, I'm at a moment in my career to reflect and decide what will be my next step. But know from the past, something great will come away again, I'm sure.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for that. So you have joined us on Rare today to discuss patient centricity. So what does patient centricity actually mean in your opinion?
Yeah, well, great question. In short, it means to me that there is a person with a certain disease that not only needs our help with a good treatment, but also could provide a pharmaceutical company the direction, what is needed to be able to find a good treatment for people suffering from the same disease. I know in many missions and visions of pharma companies, they talk about patient centricity. Many strategies and tactical plans are filled with great goals and great activities of what should be done for the patient, but not so much what should be done with the patient. And putting the patient in the center of your strategy plans, of your decision making, is maybe the worst thing you can do. Because by doing so, a patient is just being considered a person that needs our help and not a person with, besides the disease, has a life like you and me, have a job, have an education, have a role in society. And you and I, we can become patients in the future. And like I experienced myself when I was pregnant and considered no longer a high potential, a patient with disease is and can bring so much more than just being seen as a patient. So when you want to help and find a suitable treatment for a patient, I think you need to stop only talking about the patient or for the patient, but start to really engaging with them and engage with them in a way that they are seen as a critical part in the internal decision making alongside the whole product life cycle, from early development stage to post-launch. So I would say take them out of the center and place them in the circle of your internal and external experts and make them part of the decision making, like in early development, in clinical operations, in medical affairs, in marketing awareness campaigns. So if we change this patient centricity into patient engagement, or I would say even better, patient partnering, we would make a huge step forward. Because if you are partners, it would imply that we all benefit the same. So if an example, if you partner early with patients or patients advocacy groups before you set up or start your clinical trial, you can improve on patient inclusion timelines, define better research outcomes that matter to patients more, and also convince regulatory or HTA bodies to approve on new, more relevant prompts. But also you can improve on your patient awareness of a clinical trial before the new treatment is available and help to enable faster patient access. Yeah,
Right.
so that's in short what it means to me.
Yeah, yeah. So why is it particularly important in companies developing treatments for patients with rare diseases?
Yeah, if you talk with people with rare diseases, I think it's even more important to partner with them. Already the fact that there are less people that have this disease, there might be less known about these people and or the disease they suffer from, and what are their specific R&D questions. And on top of that, I think the likelihood of finding enough people to participate in your clinical trial is already more challenging. Most likely patients are also spread around the world, including developing countries, with research outcomes that are not always relevant to all patients in the different stages of life, but they can help you to define what would make certain outcomes more relevant to them and also to the HTA bodies. And I think I can give you an example that really struck myself when I heard it from a patient. So this was an example of an HTA body that approved a new treatment only when, for example, 80% of the patients could walk 200 meters independently. And they disapproved a new treatment that allowed only 50% of the patients to walk 200 meters independently. Well, you would think that makes sense, especially when the patients are mainly young children. But what if the new treatment option not only allowed the 50% of patients to walk 200 meters, but without a problem, 2,000 meters? Whereas the approved treatment allowed patients to barely walk beyond the 200 meters. What treatment do you think patients would prefer? And especially when you have young adults among the patients as well, they would give them really independent. They could walk on their own and have a life. So I think that shows that we need to include patients with rare disease to really ask them what matters to them and not only what is measurable or is known by the HTA bodies. So that's why I think it's so crucial to engage with them.
Yeah, yeah. And so what tools can companies use to hold themselves accountable and become truly like patient-centric or patient partner?
But before stepping into tools, because that's something we really like within pharma, I think the most important thing is that everybody, but especially senior management, needs to be convinced that his or her company wants to be patient-centric and accepts that patients are critical in the decision making, that they not only talk to the patient, but listen to them, and by listening also interpreted what they're saying and integrate it into their decision making, and maybe indeed do a different trial or have different outcomes, or ask patients to look at their designs. So for tools, what was a great source for me was the EUPATI European website. And EUPATI is the European Patients Academy of Therapeutic Innovation. And it's an independent non-profit foundation. And it's built by and through patient advocates. So, and again, I think that's also the story here. Like, don't invent the tools yourself. They've already been invented for you by the patients. And if you lack tools, that go to the patients and ask them what you need to do to be able to become truly patient-centric. So this site is, and I can share the link with you, but it's a great source. They explain what pharma companies can do better, but also in a compliant way in engaging with patients. But I think the best way is very simply, is to start following your own product life cycle and find ways to include patients at each step. So for example, if you work in early development space, find patients that can help you to define the research questions. Mm-hmm. Do you work in the clinical operations department? Find patients that can participate in the clinical trial design, helping you to define the prompts, help you to write an understandable informed consent, help you to improve awareness around the trial, how to participate both by using their patient group's website, or even help you to create a register so the patient can be found for future clinical trials. Mm-hmm. Do you work in the market access field? Engage with patient groups earlier, and not only when you need them and you're facing a market access issue. So if you really want to make your company patient-centric, do not only install a patient advocacy department, but make every employee an advocate and embed patient engagement goals in each individual and department objectives, measure the yearly progress, and share this also with the patient groups. And even better, I dare you to ask the patient groups how well you are doing as a company to be patient-centric.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to feature today. It's been really great to talk to you and for providing us with your insights.
Thank you so much. Most welcome.
Thank you.